Okay, next up is looking through an example and how to do things in R. As always, I like to bring in examples from the research literature. This is a study that came out in a journal where I'm actually on the editorial board, Cultural Diversity and Ethnic Minority Psychology. It's by three authors who all happen to be people of color. First is Dorian Green, who looks at stigma-related stressors and disparities in education and health between socially advantaged and socially disadvantaged individuals. Uh, she's the lead author. Then Dorian Green, professor of psych at John Jay College Criminal Justice of City University of New York. He primarily works with stereotyping and prejudice. And then Susan Murphy, who is a Latina scholar, principal investigator at the Mind and Identity and Context Lab at Indiana University. Mary's research focuses on theories about social identities and group memberships. I really do like Mary. I served on the Society for Psychological Study of Social Issues board with her. And after a particularly contentious vote, she made a point to come and take me aside and talk to me and just let me know how much she supported my view. All right, the study that we're going to talk about. In the study, African-American participants were assigned to work in pairs with a white partner. And they had a couple of factors. Obviously, it's a factorial ANOVA example. The first factor was the learning goal. They started off with a STEM, everybody got the same STEM. Keep in mind, when it comes to discussing whether racism is no longer a major problem in America, your goal to approach the interaction, your goal is to approach the interaction as either an opportunity to have an enjoyable intercultural exchange, what they call the learning goal, or to avoid appearing incompetent during the interaction, the performance goal. And they also got information about their partner's friendship network. And they were told that their partner's friends were either racially homogenous, that is, all white, or racially diverse. There was a mix of friends. They never measured a bunch of stuff. We're going to focus on one measure, which was negative emotion. Here are the hypotheses. Goals make no difference would be the null hypothesis for factor A. For friendship network factor, friendship networks make no difference. And interaction, of course, there is no interaction. Obviously, what they were looking for here is seeing whether the different group, seeing whether friendship networks affected emotions differently depending upon goal. So you can see you can get means and standard deviations. You can already begin to see a pattern with these standard deviations in the performance condition. It looks like there's about a 1-point difference there, but there's no real difference in the learning conditions between homogeneous and diverse friendship networks. So I think we're starting to already see what looks to be an interaction. Get standard deviations. Later, we'll get variances and talk about how we test assumptions, which is pretty straightforward and very similar to what we did before. The analysis, I'll talk about this code, the code that wraps around this in a second. The ANOVA command, though, is all I'll focus on right now. You can see it's just plus signs adding the different factors, and then the multiplication sign between the names of the two factors to create the interaction. So pretty straightforward. You can see we get 3 F values. And you can see goals manipulation was not significant. Friendship manipulation was significant. And then we had a significant interaction there. 2 different measures of effect size, and I'll talk about these later. For now, just take the second one, eta squared part or partial eta squared. Of course, the lower the probability, the bigger these values are going to be. And I'll talk about those values in a little bit. All right, this stuff. Options, contrast, Helmert, contrast, Pauli. This is all about the defaults in R. This is how you would need to set up ANOVA to detect interactions. Other fields don't care about interactions. So in a lot of applications like where you're using ANOVA, like maybe experimental economics or something like that, they don't really care about interactions. They don't have that kind of it depends theories that we do. So we really do need methods that are focused on interactions. This is just code that I always just copy and paste into my factorial ANOVAs. You have to have these options changed so that you get the right way of estimation. Then at the bottom, command from car called that takes ANOVA 2F, which is where I stored my analysis, and then it says type equals 3. There are several different types of sums of squares that can be used in ANOVA, and they all serve different purposes. I used to teach this, and it's really boring, and it has no practical use. There is only one message here. Psychology always uses type 3 because type 3 is what you use when you have to address situations where unequal sample sizes might occur and you're interested in interactions. That's all you need to know. I've never, ever, ever had a need for anything but type 3 sums of squares, nor have I ever seen anybody use anything but type 3 sums of squares outside of situations where they made a mistake because they didn't know it was the default in a different form of software.